Hello and welcome. I'm Laura Briggs with the Vegan Fitness Runner podcast, where I'll be talking all things running, health and fitness, and what it means to be an active vegan. Filmmaker Tom Pickering is a vegan runner and founder of Running on Plants. His new film, I Could Never Go Vegan, premieres in the UK this March. Hello, Tom. Absolutely lovely to have you here today.
Hello there. How are you doing?
I'm really good. Thank you very much. I'm going to be talking to you today a lot about an initiative called Running on Plants, which we both work on, but you actually founded it. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. It might help if I provide a bit of context about me, because that's kind of how I then got to the Running on Plants in general as a concept. So I was raised vegetarian, so completely meat-free, but I did have dairy and I did have eggs occasionally. And I was always a runner, always into running. I started competing from age 8 for City of Hull Athletics Club, which later became Kingston upon Hull. And so I was competing quite competitively. Started to do fairly well as I got older into my teen years. Won some medals, like won a Northern Bronze medal at the cross-country championships, that kind of thing. Never elite level or anything, but I was always, the fastest kid in school kind of thing. And I didn't realise it at the time, but years later, I started to wonder, if there was a correlation between the fact that I avoided animal products for the most part, because at this point I still had the occasional bit of cow's milk and eggs. And so I was kind of going through my day-to-day life, not really thinking about it. But then when I went vegan, when I officially went vegan, so in about 2015, I gave up dairy, but I wouldn't say I fully went vegan until 2017, because that's when I identified with veganism as a cause and removed the use of animal products from everything, like even clothing or items I have and that kind of thing. And it was then that it became a bit more clear to me, because then my running improved once again. I actually got back into running really, really fast and hard at that point, and got a bit obsessed with park runs and stuff. And all of a sudden, I was getting PBs, and I was like, "How has this happened?" I've not really changed anything other than I've just changed my lifestyle and just started doing all these park runs because I was just enjoying the regular routine to them. And so then I went on a bit of a spiral down the research and looking into the benefits of avoiding animal protein in particular, and what it can do for our bodies, and actually getting everything I need exclusively through plants. And when the benefits I felt, particularly from going vegan. So bear in mind, I made the switch from a vegetarian to a vegan. So it was a smaller switch than, say, if you were eating meat products, animal products every day. But just giving up cow's milk in general, I'll never forget the difference I felt when I did that. It's like I could breathe freely all of a sudden. And I didn't realise at the time, but I was probably quite lactose intolerant. But I just powered on like a lot of people do, because you don't really think anything of it. And yeah, everything improved for me. My quality of life, my sleeping, my running, my performance in general, my mood. And then fast forward a few years, and I'm a filmmaker by trade, but I do, activism work on a daily basis, and that's what I really am passionate about. And I wanted to start something to give people that feeling that I had when I gave up animal products, and just this natural boost. And actually, you could keep everything else in your life the same, but your training doesn't actually change, but you would still improve literally by making the switch to your diet. So Running on Plants was kind of born from that idea of people feeling what I felt there, and I wanted to put something quite tangible to measuring this. So I'm a big fan of Veganuary. I think it's brilliant. Sometimes what happens now, though, is, people might say, "Oh, I feel fantastic after that month of avoiding animal products." But I thought, if I throw in this whole 5K challenge, the Running on Plants in general, the thing we first did was, let's launch a 5K challenge, because I want people to be able to say, I'm physically faster than I used to be, because I've done a full month of running on plants, quite literally. So this happened last June for the first time. People would log a 5K at the start of the month, a 5K at the end of the month. The idea being that by the time they get to the end of the month after eating, we promote whole plant foods because that's what, will do your body better. I mean, I love vegan junk food, don't get me wrong, but, if you really want to feel the health benefits, it's the whole plant foods. And then we give them this training plan they can follow. It's all entirely free. They get recipes that they can go and cook, and there's loads of support and nutritional information through our partners at Plant-Based Health Professionals and Switch for Good and nutritionfacts.org. And we basically then hope that people take this on, they do the month, and then they finish with a new 5K time. And the idea is that, when if you can physically say, I'm 2 minutes faster than I was just a month before, and all I've done is I've made these lifestyle changes, then my thinking was that might make you more likely to stick with this lifestyle because, there's something real tangible there to measure that you're literally a faster version of yourself than you were previously. And now it's just kind of gone from strength to strength as the whole Running on Plants brand, in that we do monthly challenges to keep people motivated and always building up to this big 5K that we do in June. So we really want June to be our month in the calendar where people think, oh, right, it's time to get another 5K PB. I've got the Running on Plants 5K challenge coming up again. But that's not to say it's not worth checking us out at any point in the year, because there's always something to motivate you with regards to your health and fitness goals. Sorry, that was a very long-winded way of explaining something. I don't even know if I did it very well.
You did it really well, actually. And it was, I just kind of let you talk about it because it's you described it really well. But what's really good about the June challenge, I think, Tom, is that, you can read all the scientific evidence you like, can't you? A lot of people read in the newspapers, social media about how, veganism is really good for us. But until you actually do something and you see a change in yourself, you see kind of the benefits that changing your diet can have on your performance, people don't really maybe trust it quite as much. So do you think that by, the people that signed up to the June challenge last year, they obviously saw benefits from going plant-based? And do you think that will make people stick with a vegan plant-based diet more often than not?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my hope and my intention. And that's kind of why we attached this running-based challenge to adopting eating plants. Because I do think, and again, going back to Veganuary, the feedback is nearly always overwhelmingly positive because Veganuary is such an awesome initiative. But I think unless people really make that connection, there's three big connections, I think. And one is, you do this because for animal welfare reasons, you do it for environmental reasons, and you do it for health and fitness. And I think if you make the animal welfare connection, you're likely to stick with it regardless, because it's you end up seeing things you can't unsee, and then you can never justify having those products again. But sometimes what happens is people really don't make that connection when they try these monthly challenges. They just do it because they just want to try it, see if they can do it, see how they feel. And the danger there, I suppose, is if it's just based on how you think you feel, you never really know if that's entirely accurate. And so going back to the running angle, the idea there is when you've got something real tangible like a time that you've improved, and there's no lying about that. I mean, you'll know how you feel as well while you're doing it, and you'll know your health has improved. And as you go through the month training, you'll be like, this is getting easier and easier. And that's the thing when you get your fitness back with running. It's such an amazing feeling. I was thinking the other day, actually, what's the best feeling about running? And it might be, say if you've had some time off and you're a couple of weeks into a training plan and you're like, this is easy. 2 weeks ago, this was feeling hard, and it's just got easy, and I've just clocked a slightly quicker mile for that one, and I'm hardly even breathless. And that's one of the best feelings, I think, as a runner. And being able to have that feeling, but then the time on top of it, then that's the hope, is that that's enough to keep people really focused and thinking, okay. And then from there, they will find the various reasons as to why it's such a wonderful lifestyle to live as compassionately and kindly as you possibly can.
Another thing with running on plants, Tom, is that it's encouraging people to move in every form. It's not just about running, is it?
No, sorry, I just took a big gulp of coffee. No, the idea in general is, so I'm a big believer that we're designed to move. We function better when we move. And just speaking from experience, I know, say if I've got some slight aches and pains, say I moved house last year, and I remember when you're rushing around moving house, you're lifting things all the time. Sometimes your form goes out the window and you end up like maybe you tweak your back or something. I've found from experience, if I'm ever in a situation like that, if I just kind of sit down and mope around and don't really, and just think, oh, well, I can't run or I can't really do anything today because I've hurt my back. That's like the worst thing I can do. It's really bad for me from a mental perspective, just for my mental health. But also, I end up, it feels worse. You seize up. And whereas if I was to get out and just go for a dog walk, for example, like I come back and I already feel a million times better. And it's loosened off, and I realise I can just power on with something like that. It's really not that big a deal. Well, that's if you were out of the animal kingdom, that's what you would do. You would just get on with it. And so, and that's just obviously one really random example. But I think just in terms of going outside, in terms of just moving your body in general, or just improving your overall fitness, your well-being, there's so much to be said about just doing something every day, whatever. And it could be just a dog walk. It could be going out for a cycle. It could be gardening. It could be going for a run like I do. It could be heading to the gym. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just the act of going and doing something that's benefiting you mentally and physically. And it's just trying to encourage people to take on these new daily routines where actually they will feel the benefit and they will want to continue them. And the thing that you typically find is sometimes before, especially if the weather's terrible like it has been lately, I look out the window and say it's hammering it down with rain. The last thing on my mind is, this is a great time to get out there and go for a run. But I know, because I've been doing it long enough, I know that actually if I do that and when I come back, I will be so happy that I've done that. And I always remind myself of that feeling as well. It's that I know that I will benefit from this and I will be really pleased with myself once I've done it. So I'm going to get a little bit wet. Doesn't matter, I'll dry. It's fine.
Nothing wrong with a bit of rain, is there?
Well, the thing is, when you live where we live, just in the UK in general, if we didn't go out every time it rained, then we'd hardly go out at all, would we?
That's really true. I found actually over Christmas, I don't know, many people see family and they don't tend to, well, they're obviously out of their normal routine, aren't they? So I found that I was pretty inactive for me. And I really start to crave that activity because I'm normally such an active person. So actually having the motivation to then sign up to a mini challenge each month gives me that focus, and it makes me want to get out a lot more than I would otherwise. And I just feel so much better for it, like you said you do.
Yeah, exactly. We all need it as well, don't we? So we've obviously come up with this. The challenge this month is the January Movement Challenge, which is all about just encouraging people to move. So we've come up with this. However, we benefit just as much as everyone else, don't we? We're only human at the end of the day, and we realise that we also need this encouragement to keep doing what we're doing. Everyone
completely.
Needs it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, completely. And we were talking earlier, weren't we? And I was saying that, sometimes I can only manage like a mile, which, to some might be a lot to run if you don't run ordinarily. But for me, that's quite a short run. But if that's all I can fit in the day, then just doing that mile, getting something done, it all counts. It all really, really helps to make me feel more positive and get me faster and get me fitter.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing you learn as well is you shouldn't beat yourself up over maybe you planned in your head you were going to do 3 miles, say, but your day's just got away from you and it's a bit hectic at work, or they have to pick up the kids or take the dog out or whatever it might be. So you shouldn't beat yourself up over the fact that you can't do what you intended to do. At least you're actively trying to do something that's going to have a real positive effect on you, and that's the way I would look at that. But yeah, I mean, as you say, we were talking earlier, and because I take the dog out every day for at least an hour, and then I'm trying to fit a couple of weight sessions in a week as well. And this morning, I think my legs were just saying to me, I just have a day off. It'll be all right.
And now we can't.
Yeah, I know. But again, going back to that feeling of happiness, as soon as I finished the run this morning, I was like, do you know what? Glad I did it. Feel good.
Feel good again. Exactly. Tom, it's quite interesting because you and I come at veganism from kind of different sides, I suppose, in that you have never eaten meat. You were a vegetarian. As you say, you were raised as a vegetarian, so you've never eaten meat. I, previously to becoming vegetarian and then vegan, I ate meat. So I've been on that side. How do you do you think you see things with a different perspective, having never actually eaten meat before?
I guess so. It's obviously it's difficult for me to properly answer that because I don't know what the other side looks like, if that makes sense. I can only compare it to, say, if I'm having a quite a detailed conversation with my wife about it, for example, because she used to eat meat and then went vegan shortly after we met. And so I think I know from things that she's told me that, she can't believe that she ever would look at a plate of meat and consider that as food, and the idea is almost like revolting to her now. I guess the closest I have is I can't believe how much cow's milk I used to drink, because I tell you, I used to. I would have that every day, and the idea of that now does make me feel a little bit sick. In that I was clearly having a reaction to that and not realizing it, like I mentioned before. So yeah, it's. I think there's definitely the outlook I say, or the way I would say makes me think differently, is that I probably have to always remind myself of what journey someone's on. If I'm talking to someone who eats meat, I can never fully put myself in their shoes because I've never been in that situation. And certain food products are really addictive, and so I have to understand that wherever they are on their journey, they might not be ready to even entertain the idea that I'm here there, telling them that they shouldn't eat that. And so that's where the art of communication comes in, I think, and you have to really kind of assess your audience and what it is, how you think you will best reach them, I think. But that's a constant learning curve as well. But it's an interesting one. I think usually it surprises people because people can't believe that I'm still here, alive and functioning.
One of the questions I really want to ask you actually is, what are the biggest questions you get asked by non-vegans as to how you function?
Well, I hate to say it because it's the question that everybody always asks, and it is still a question that gets asked, and it's protein. Because I do a couple of weight sessions a week. I'm not massive or anything, but I'm definitely probably on maybe the slightly more muscular side of a runner, if that makes sense. Because I've always been quite naturally thick set anyway. I used to play rugby and stuff, and I think it's just kind of carried over. But so people are usually surprised, I think, is what the initial reaction will be, is well, you don't look like a vegan. People always say you don't look like a vegan, to which I say, what do vegans look like? Should I be wearing a poncho or something? So there's that side of things, and then they'll talk about the protein, which I can answer so easily, as we all can, because it's in all plant foods. So, and then people will often say cheese as well, because I did eat cheese growing up, and they're like, "Don't you miss cheese?" But weirdly, and I know I'm probably in the minority here, I never actually liked cheese that much, so I would never buy it in. I would only ever have it if, say, I had a pizza or something, and again, I always felt awful after it. But just never thought anything of it. And then, so it was quite a relief to give cheese up for me. And it's the same with vegan cheeses now. I'll take them or leave them. I think some of them are really good, but it's just not really for me. So that's
not your favourite.
Exactly, yeah.
Interestingly, you said earlier that you used to drink milk every day, and yet you still had a reaction off the back of that. Did you drink the milk because at that point you thought that it was good for you, you're beneficial for your body?
Yeah, it was a couple of things, especially when I was really into weightlifting. I very foolishly, I actually thought I was at a disadvantage because I was vegetarian. So this was before I went vegan and before I properly researched everything, I guess. Everyone I knew and everyone I trained with, the bulk of their protein was coming from animal products, particularly meat. And I was like, oh, well, the only animal products I can have are eggs and milk. So I would do it that way. And I hadn't, by that point, it was just normal for me to be vegetarian, but I hadn't made that connection for animal welfare reasons. I hadn't looked into the milk industry or the chicken industry. I guess I was willfully ignorant, like most of us are at some point in our lives. And so that's kind of why I think I overcompensated, thinking I needed it. And yeah, that could have been just to do with general conditioning, how the media is around us, various factors of the environment that we live in. And it was only once I started to explore actually the nutritional qualities of it. So, and that's the thing that led me down the path originally was the health side of things. Well, the reason I say I didn't officially go vegan until 2017 is because that's when I identified with like the welfare aspects and stuff, and that is my main motivator now for being vegan. By the way, it's entirely the animals. The health thing's just a bonus for me. But initially, I did look into, what can I do to improve my performance and maybe actually give up this product, because at some point I'd realised don't think cow's milk's doing me any good, and I was like, well, where am I going to get my protein? I was like as bad as all the people asking me questions about protein, but it just goes to show that we're all there at some point, aren't we, on that journey? So it was once I'd made that connection and then I gave that up and carried on and found alternative sources and realised that it was actually far superior anyway.
And you made that connection, I'm guessing, Tom, because you have done a lot of research into not just the health benefits, but where the products come from and how we get these products and what the animals go through, and that's a lot to do with your line of work, isn't it? As a filmmaker. Yeah,
I mean, interestingly, what happened at some point was obviously when you'll know this yourself, Laura, when you go vegan, you kind of do get very passionate about it because you ultimately want to try and make a difference, create a kind of more compassionate world, help those around you, and feel like you're having a positive effect and doing some good. And so I just trying to figure out what was the best way I could combine my day job as a filmmaker with actually doing some real good in the world. And that's where the idea of doing sort of some activism film work came into play as well. So I still, even to this day, a good chunk of what I do is purely in the activism filmmaking space. But I do also work as a commercial filmmaker and make narrative films and other documentaries and that kind of thing. But I think it was actually late 2019, I had the idea I wanted to do a vegan documentary that actually explored all the reasons people say they could never go vegan, and funnily enough, we called it I Could Never Go Vegan, just because it's something we've all said. I'm pretty sure I said it at one point, and that's been raised a vegetarian, so it just felt like it was had a really interesting hook if you were to see that poster or watch the trailer or just even see the title, because it's like, if you were vegan, you'd be like, well, why not? And if you're not vegan, you'd be like, oh yeah, I couldn't go vegan either. And then it's kind of almost like luring everybody in. And that then took me on a 4-year journey that's still going on to this day.
Well, I really want to talk to you a bit more about your film, I Could Never Go Vegan, because this actually premieres in March, does it not?
It does. So we finished the film last year. Then we went through the various and really long process of sorting everything legally, all the insurances, and then kind of getting sales agent, getting distributors on board, all of that stuff, which takes forever. But we're now in a place where the film's been picked up for UK distribution, which is amazing, with other territories like North America to follow after. And the first step is a cinema run, which is so cool because, I mean, I never thought we would be able to release this documentary at the cinema. I didn't even really realise that many people would go to the cinema to watch a documentary, but there is an audience for it. So we're absolutely thrilled to be taking it to the cinema. It will have its premiere in towards late March, and then after the premiere, which will be in London, it'll be launching across cinemas nationwide. And so that will roll out. We are thinking at the end of March. We're actually going to be confirming this officially pretty much within the next week. So the only reason we haven't is because the distributor, who basically have picked up the film, they're still on their Christmas break and they don't come back till the 8th. So
just typical.
Yeah. So from next Monday onwards, we imagine we'll be in a place where we can officially confirm that. But we're very excited. Can't wait for the impact we could have with it. The end goal for me ultimately is I want people to see the reasons, and actually then start to make question things for themselves and hopefully make some lifestyle changes off the back of it. And we're so happy with the film we've put together. We've got such an amazing cast. It's like a who's who of anyone in the vegan movement. And we think we've done it in a way that's actually quite entertaining as well. There's some humorous bits, there's some hard-hitting bits, really inspiring moments as well. It's just a good mix of everything for everyone, I think.
It's obviously taken a long time to get to this point, Tom, and I'm imagining that there were some really difficult bits for you to have to overcome as you made the film. What was the hardest part of it? Was it going undercover, or was it more the kind of putting the film together itself? What were the challenges?
Yeah, that's a good question, because there were so many hard parts of this, I will say. Part of it was we were hit with the pandemic, if you remember that. And that shut down the production for a fair few months. And then when we picked up again, we could only operate with such a tiny crew, which actually turned out to be a bit of a blessing, if I'm honest, because lots of times it was just me and my brother and maybe a sound recordist, and we'd be going around and just filming people. Sometimes it'd just be me and my brother. And it meant that I was having to do about 5 different jobs on set, which was not fun. Everything took way longer than it should have. But it turned into this really, really nice experience. And then every person who was in the film would then form this really nice bond with them. I still chat with every single person in the film to this day, regularly. So that side of it, while that was difficult, it actually worked out to be quite a nice experience. It's very different to how I typically make a film, but you can do that with documentaries because it's a bit more run and gun, and it's a bit more flexible in terms of where you're shooting, in terms of when you're wrapping, and all those kind of things. If you're part of the industry, you would be really familiar with. But I think definitely the really hard part for me was going undercover. So I went undercover to a pig farm, and it was awful. It was one of the worst experiences of my life, possibly the worst experience. It was actually probably worse than the slaughterhouse stuff, only in that when you're looking to go into that environment and look into the eyes of a pig that's sort of stuck in a farrowing cage for 7 weeks with all their babies around them who are getting crushed because their mum just can't move, and then hearing that, and then witnessing it all, and just looking into their eyes, because their eyes are so human-like, in particular a pig's, which is why I think we make a really close connection with them. Yeah, there was just something about that. It's haunted me ever since. It really has. And I went through all the different stages in the pig units, and it was just absolutely horrendous experience. But obviously the slaughterhouse stuff was horrific. I didn't have to, thankfully, we worked with an organisation for that. I didn't have to go undercover myself because I don't think I'd have been able to do that. But even just I remember when I had to edit that footage, I put it off for weeks and weeks, and eventually I said to my brother, so my brother, he produced the film, by the way, when I mentioned him. I said to him, I was like, I'm going to have to do this, but I was like, is there any way you can pick out some of the footage for me? And then he was just basically like, I can't do that. It was like, it needs to be you. This is your vision at the end of the day, which was absolutely right. I was just basically trying to find a way out. And then all of a sudden I was like, if I can't even edit this, imagine what it's like going through it. Which really hit home for me. And then I just got on with it. I was like, there's a bigger picture here. People need to see this. So they were really challenging parts. And the other parts, I guess, would just be the physical toll it takes on you. I mean, it's been going on for 4 years. And we're basically at the finish line now, but it's a heck of a journey you go on. And most of it's really, really awesome to do. I really enjoyed being out on the road with my brother, just filming, really low key. But the post-production process, once we'd wrapped on filming, I absolutely hated that. Hated it all the legal side, all the insurance. You can't go on a streaming platform without insurance, for example. All the things that you don't really think about when you're just a regular viewer, as I was as well. So it was a bit of a shock to me to realise, oh, by the way, your film's still going to be another year yet. And I was like, what? It's finished.
Well, it's an incredible project, and the really great news about it is that it has the longest cinema run of any vegan film. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, that is correct, yes. So I'm I'm not going to say that is definitive, but I believe it'll be the longest cinema in terms of the longest stretch it has at the cinema. And so it could be up to 120 different screens as well in the UK. So that's awesome.
That in itself is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, obviously, you've touched on the horrific parts of the film, which need to be told. But equally, you met some phenomenal people, didn't you? And have made obviously very good connections and friends in the vegan world. Who do you look up to in particular in that world?
Oh, that's a tough question to answer, because I'm forever inspired by. I mean, everyone in the film is incredible. I will say that, and we were so fortunate to film some truly amazing people, and I really am forever inspired by the work they do. And the good thing is that we have such a good mixture. So even though I was just talking about obviously the welfare side of stuff and the slaughterhouse stuff, that's actually quite a small section, because we're very conscious that we didn't want to turn people away, but it was important that people saw that, but still they see everything else. So we're quite strategic in where we place that in the film and how much of it we show and that sort of thing. But the companies that are doing that kind of work, like Animal Justice Project and Viva, I mean, they're amazing. I wouldn't be able to do that permanently like they do. I mean, it must just take such a toll on your mental well-being. But then you've got the organisations that focus more on the health side of things. So Dr. Shireen Kassam, who runs Plant-Based Health Professionals, she is definitely one of my heroes. And she's the kindest, most helpful person you could ever meet. Whenever I have a question, she answers immediately. I mean, and I don't know how she does it with her day job as a consultant hematologist as well, and everything else she's doing. She's incredible. But then you've also got the sort of the athletes who we feature heavily, who are doing amazing stuff. We kind of kickstart that with Dr. Minil Patel, who's become a really close friend of mine. Who's he's a doctor, but he's also in incredible physical condition. And then we moved to people like Lisa Abel, who's CrossFit champion of Germany 3 times. We've got Sophia Ellis, who is British powerlifting champ, and her strength is unparalleled. It's insane. She's lifting more than most of the guys who are competing, which is incredible. And I mean, the list goes on. We're just so lucky that we were able to feature these people, and it's kind of so nicely placed in the film. We really do go on this bit of a narrative journey that kind of leads naturally from one argument to another. But I think it'd be, to go back to your original question, it would be so difficult just to sort of name one person, because honestly, the film's flooded with people who I look up to now, and pretty much everyone who's something in the vegan movement is in the film as well, which is another massive land for us.
What's really interesting as well, Tom, is that you said you still keep in touch pretty regularly with all the people that appeared in this film. Now, I'm guessing, and I don't know because I'm not a filmmaker, but I'm guessing that a lot of films have stars in them that kind of do the work, move on, that's it, you would never hear from them again. It kind of is testament to the vegan world, really, the vegan movement, to how friendly everybody is and how much we all kind of work together.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I've noticed this so much with the doctors as well. And the reason why I kind of break it into these sections is just because of it's how I think about things now because of the film. But obviously I mentioned Shireen and Manil Patel, but like Alan Desmond, Gemma Newman, Rohini Bajekal and her parents as well, Neetu and Rajiv. We, for some reason, whenever we would reach out to the doctors and we'd want to talk, we want to cover this particular topic to do with the health side of things, would you be interested? It was always like a resounding yes. It's like, what do you need from me? When do you want to do it? It's so refreshing, because working in the film industry, sometimes you really have to battle to try and get people on board with the project and the idea. But within the vegan movement, I think people are just so passionate about it that they just want to help people regardless. They want to do anything they can to try and raise more awareness for the movement and for what it is that we're doing. I mean, that could be said for anyone in the film, by the way, but I always remember with the doctors, they were so quick to jump on and be like, yep, I'll do that. Where should we do it? Which is lovely, isn't it? The genuine in actually wanting to help people.
It's absolutely wonderful. And I suppose going back to, your Running on Plants initiative that we're both working very hard to engage people with, that's a similar philosophy, is that we want to get more people on board. We're about trying to be inclusive and getting people to try a vegan diet and to move more. And there's no hidden agenda. It is just that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm always surprised when I actually think about what veganism is at its core. It's really just trying to live as compassionately as possible in your lifestyle and be kind and avoid cruelty. Like, it's a wonderful thing. So it blows my mind that people would try and challenge that in general. But I think there's a really interesting person we filmed called Tobias Lenier, who's is kind of, I view him almost as like a philosopher, really, even though he's technically not. But he speaks so many words of wisdom. But he said to me, he told me about the theory of do-gooder derogation, and kind of told me about how, imagine you're at a dinner party and you're one vegan in a room of 20 non-vegans. And then say someone says to you, why is it that you're vegan then? And you say, well, it's purely for animal welfare reasons. I don't agree with it. I don't think we need to eat animals. And morally, I think it's the wrong thing to do. So by default, even though the vegan's not out basically said outright, I'm better than you. Well, by default, what's happened is the non-vegan who's part of that conversation has said, well, or they've thought in their head, hang on a second, well, I do eat animals, so and this person doesn't because they think it's wrong and morally it shouldn't be done. Does that mean that I'm immoral in what I'm doing? And does that mean that I'm actually a bad person? And all of a sudden they start questioning these things, even though you may not have outright said this to them. And so then what happens is they then derogate the do-gooders. So because there's far more non-vegans, they can basically say, well, no, that's ridiculous. We're in the majority as non-vegans. Actually, you being a vegan, what you're saying might sound nice, but it's just impractical. It's wrong. Meat's normal, nice, necessary, as Melanie Joy says all the time, which she's also fantastic, by the way. And so what happens is they will just derogate the do-gooder, and then so they can carry on with their normal life. That tends to be the trajectory or the path that we're all on at some point, and we have all been there, I think, as well. But at some point, we open up to something, we allow it in, and then there's no turning back. And I think typically what seems to happen is we need to realise how, going back to the art of communication, as a vegan, we need to realise that the compassion stretches to humans as well. It stretches to all animals. And so we need to actually remember that we've all been there and strip it back to what's the best way to communicate with this person then, so that actually they don't feel like I'm perhaps attacking their morals, but actually I'm just trying to explain something that maybe they can open up to and take on board. And then maybe if it plants a seed and they think in their own time, and you never know, a few months down the line, they may actually be on their own journey to veganism.
Absolutely. And a lot of the guests I've had on the podcast have all been in agreement that, that evangelical kind of, I don't know, shouty veganism method is not the right way. People need to investigate for themselves why they want to become vegan or why they should become vegan. It's about planting a seed, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think you've got to be understanding. It's so easy to kind of forget that, and I've done it before myself as well, because you do get so passionate about it, and you do want people to think how you think, but it's just not the way. It's just not the reality of the situation at the moment, unfortunately. And another thing I always kind of reference is, well, what's better then? Is it better to have 1% of the world identify entirely as vegan, or maybe could we have 50% who are active reducers, and actually they're those numbers, because of how many people are on this planet, actually it's far greater. There's way fewer animals being killed if 50% of the world are actively reducing. So that's kind of how I look at it. Now, and don't get me wrong, I would like everybody to be vegan, but you also have to be realistic. And I think that's the thing that becomes a bit of a skill in itself, is holding on to that realism as you're communicating with people, and remembering the journey that they're on and not the journey that you're on. Because ultimately, if you turn them away, then I think as an activist, you've not really done your job, have you? You know, our job is to plant the seed and get them on their journey, and you just have to figure out the best way to do that. And just going all guns blazing is usually not the way I would suggest. Although some people do it.
No, it's about reading the room, isn't it, really? I know, plenty of staunch meat eaters who I know I would have more impact on if I make that suggestion of reducing meat consumption rather than stopping it entirely. Whereas I have other friends who I know, would be way more receptive to actually trying a full vegan diet. So it's just like you say, it's kind of knowing your audience a little bit, I guess. So let's go back again, Tom, and just, really hit home the running on plants message. We talked about our mini challenges earlier on in the conversation. So for January, we are trying to move every single day of the month. But this all leads up to the June 5K challenge. How can people get involved with running on plants?
Yes, so the big thing, as you say, is the June 5K challenge. People can go onto our website, which is runningonplants.org, where there's an abundance of information, completely free resources, recipes, training plans once they're signed up, inspirational videos and content, but also loads of nutritional information through our various wonderful partners. So it's definitely worth checking out the website. We also have a presence on Facebook and on Instagram. If you search Running on Plants, you'll find us on both of those platforms. And we post daily, and that could be a combination of training tips and advice. It could be recipes, cooking videos and reels. It could just be general information with regards to nutrition and health. It could be things around recovery. So, yeah, I mean, even if you don't have to be a vegan to follow us, you don't have to be a runner. You could just be curious about the idea and think that actually I'd like to get into this at some point, because all we're trying to do is inspire you to and motivate you to actually take that next step on your journey, and hopefully it leads to you trying the big challenge in June, improving your running time, falling in love with running like we are, because it's such a great addiction is running, and just eating lots of really good whole foods, because you feel so much better for it as well.
Absolutely. It's also worth saying, isn't it, that if you are on Strava, there is a Running on Plants Strava group. So if you are taking part in any of our challenges, you can kind of log your activities on there and share your progress with us. And we really love to hear about everybody's efforts during the month. So you can tag us on social media as well, can't you, with ROP Challenge. So there's lots of ways.
I completely forgot about that.
There's lots of ways of getting involved, and I think as well, really worth saying that it's a real community. And from my perspective as well, I'm getting a lot out of sharing information with other people about my activities, and getting kudos from people, or just reading about how other people are getting on in their challenges, which is a big part of it.
Absolutely, yeah, it totally is, and it's that community feel as well that I think is really important, because that's kind of what inspires you and motivates you to keep going, and to some extent holds you accountable as well, because you then start to think, well, I don't want to let anyone else down. Where I'm taking this challenge, and on an ordinary day in the month, perhaps this would be a great time for me just to rest and not do something, but knowing that you've committed to that, it kind of keeps you accountable. And then, as you say, you'll log on to Strava, you look through, everybody's sharing their runs. Today's like the movement challenge day 5 for Running on Plants, and you're just seeing what everyone else is doing. And it is interesting because we all have a different way of training as well. I'm loving it. I really am. Like I said before, I think it's the best thing I could have done for myself is to have these challenges. So that's always a good sign that it's working.
Yeah, and it really is for everybody. You don't have to be an amazing runner. You don't even have to be a runner. You might just want to go out and go for a walk. It's about exploring movement. It's about exploring a plant-based diet and what that can do for your body and for your fitness, and really hopefully at the end of the day prove that, you know, those switches in your diet and upping your fitness level really has major health benefits as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And January is a great month to try something like this with Veganuary and its 10th anniversary. We've got vegan products all over the place, so you can kind of combine it, which is another good thing. If you're doing Veganuary, why not try a bit of movement as well? Because the thing is, I think once people get on board with this, they nearly always say, I can't believe I didn't do it sooner. And we want to avoid those moments in life, don't we, where we feel like we've not done the right thing for long enough. And so I'd say with anything like this, even if, to your point, Laurie, even if you're not a runner and maybe you've had such a, you know, your work life is so hectic and stressful that you struggle to even get outside and find the time to go for a walk. Just try a little bit. Just try a little bit of something, even if it's 15 minutes on your dinner hour. You know, whatever it might be. If you're getting up 15 minutes earlier just to get a little walking in the morning, anything is better than nothing. And we will always encourage that. Just do whatever you can, because it nearly always leads to a bit more.
Incredible. And you know what? It is Veganuary, and obviously everybody out there has heard of Veganuary, I hope, and a lot of people certainly will be trying it. But Running on Plants is there to support you beyond January, and we'll be there doing our mini challenges month on month, won't we, Tom? And my goal, I think, is to be half as fast as you are. My goodness, I keep checking your times and thinking I'm going to have to work hard to get a fast 5K in June.
What is your 5K PB, Laura?
I think from memory it's 26 minutes, I think. Maybe
that's a great time.
It's all right. I'm hoping I can go a bit quicker.
Well,
I don't really do short distance. This is my problem, Tom. I don't do short distance. I do long distance. So I'm totally out of my comfort zone here.
Yeah, well, if you follow the plan in June, I can tell you, Laura, you will improve that time. Which is already a great time, but that's how confident I am in the training plans that we have, because it's the interval sessions. They're the thing that really get you speed up. I every time I reintroduce interval sessions into my training plan, I'm always amazed. It's like I've forgotten what they do for me, and I'm like, wow, my turnover, you know, my leg cadence is just like doubled. Probably not literally, but that's what it feels like. I think we should, well, I reckon me, you and Chris, who's our other employee at Running on Plants, our colleague, I think he will also have his own little challenges in terms of what he wants to try and reach in terms of times. We should probably all may have a bit of a target. So mine's going to be sub 18 minutes for a 5K. That I already know that's what I'm going for. And I think Chris might go for the same, because we're only about 10 seconds apart in our PBs.
Don't expect that from me, okay? I might try and shave a couple of minutes off. But the point is, Tom, that, you know, improvements can be made and we can all make them, can't we? So everybody that wants to sign up and have a go at the Running on Plants challenges is, you know, completely welcome to do so. And they will all have our full support, won't they?
Of course. And please, if you do, just tag us and let us know how you get on, because we absolutely love looking at what you're doing in terms of training, looking at how much you're improving, or the foods that you might be eating, the meals you're cooking. So if you're involved, just give us an update, take a picture, tag us, even send us some messages through the website. Let us know. We genuinely love to know that it's actually just having the impact that we know it can have. So, and thank you for being involved as well.
Absolutely. And they can all see how you improve on your time, Tom, which is the best bit. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. No doubt I'll be talking to you within the next week anyway for Running on Plants. But thanks for being on the podcast, Tom, and sharing everything you know about veganism and your film, I Could Never Go Vegan, and Running on Plants. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening, and don't forget to leave a review for the Vegan Fitness Runner podcast. Please subscribe if you don't want to miss an episode, and remember you can find out more about all my guests and further information on all the topics covered over on the website veganfitnessrunner.com. Thanks again, and bye for now.